Hey there, fellow navigators. I'm sitting in the cab of the ore shunter right now. Wanted to find a quiet place that I could go. We could have a little discussion. So I want to talk to you about the SDP45 and what was going on with that. Um, Unfortunately, we are no longer pursuing that locomotive, and basically have told the Virginia Museum of Transportation we're no longer interested in it. Um, and the reason being is that it just simply took too long to get it moved from where NS had it stored over to VMT. So let me explain the situation here. Um, so when we first became interested in that locomotive back in, was it 2019 or so, um, we had just got 58 finished. We just had this little bit of property right here with a little bit of track. And the idea behind that was because there's another organization, another museum on the other side of town. It's a very small group called the Mahoning Valley Railroad Heritage Association. And the idea that I had was that if we could find them a kind of a historically significant piece of equipment that is interesting enough that would basically put them on the map. Because their collection isn't really all that much of, it's they've got some critters and some cabooses and the like, but there's no, real centerpiece of the collection. And so I thought that, hey, this SDP 45 is available. It's Erie Lackawanna. That meant it ran in Youngstown all the time. It's a locally significant locomotive. We could bring it here and restore it, and then, they would have something. So the whole project wasn't even about Youngstown Steel Heritage and the J&O Narrow Gauge very much. It was about helping this other group across town, of which I'm a board member of, to develop a little bit more. And of course, we would own the locomotive and be a partnership with them. So that was the basic idea. And we negotiated with VMT. We came up with a price of $15,000 to purchase it, and we gave them $2,500 down as a deposit. And I said that once once they get the locomotive moved over to VMT where I can get access to it, I would then pay them the rest, and then ownership would transfer to us, and then we'd move it up here. Because what I didn't want to do was to pay them a lot of money for a locomotive that was stranded and that I could not access, and there was no timetable for getting it. Um, but I didn't really think it'd take too long, and no one down there thought it would, because they had a good relationship with Norfolk Southern. Basically, to call them up, and they would send a switch crew out, and they'd move stuff between VMT and the NRHS chapter's yard, um, and everything worked out just fine. Well, of course, 2019 thereabouts was the very beginning of precision scheduled railroading. So here comes NS deciding all of a sudden, they're going to close Schaefer's Crossing. They're going to close the locomotive shops. They're going to, basically furlough all the switch crews in Roanoke except for, I think, one. And of course, management and supervision changes locally meant that everyone that they knew down there in Roanoke that would do these moves for them was gone. The railroad had no capability of making these moves for them anymore. Um, so then that became the situation. So we're like, okay, well, we'll we'll see how things go and just kind of ride it out, see how long this takes. Well, I'm not going to sit around forever and twiddle my thumbs while we're waiting for Norfolk Southern. So we moved forward here. We purchased this strip of land from the neighbor and then built all that track up the hill. Then the Canadian porters became available, and I had to purchase them when they were made available to us, because either us or they were going to sell them to someone else. So there was $30,000 there for those. Um, and then of course the boxcar and the caboose had to get moved off the Y&S over here. So I needed to get that done. So money for that. Well, of course, last fall, finally after 3 years, NS moved the locomotive, the 6670, over to VMT. And when this happened, I'm thinking, well, geez, I just dumped 30 grand on those porters. I've got other stuff going on. I don't have the resources anymore to follow through on that project that I did. Had it been 2019 or early 2020, I still had resources. Because what we raised enough money to complete the purchase of the locomotive. That was it. There was not a dime for the air brake work, several $1,000s worth of air brake work. There was no money for actually shipping it, which I think was about $9,000. So we're looking at another $15,000 on top of everything else to get it moved up here. Well, in 2020, yeah, I could have come up with that money, and it would have had to come out of my pocket. I'll tell you the truth. The fundraising's nice, but when we do a project here, I raise a little bit. The rest of it comes from me. That's just, that's just the way it is. So, I didn't have that money this fall for the SD45, and whereas in 2020 we would have had the ability to do that. And so thinking, well, what should we do here? Because I made a commitment that we'd do something with the locomotive, but thinking about it, and the more I think about it, was that if I would have tried to follow through on that, it probably would have basically bankrupted the whole organization and the whole effort. There's just no way that I could now spread myself that thin to try to keep this place going and advancing forward, and then dumping $15,000 to $20,000 extra into a locomotive, which even once we got it to Youngstown is still going to be this hulk that needs God knows how much work. And in the last couple of years, I've kind of also had a reality check that, even us with an operating steam locomotive, we have trouble having enough volunteers here on a regular basis to keep things going. We have a very small group of people. There just isn't this, this group of rail fans are just waiting in the wings for, something to happen and they're going to come out and volunteer and help. It's not like that at all. There's a few people that we have that come out here on a regular basis. So where are we going to find these people to work on a 70-foot long locomotive and all the chipping and grinding and cleaning and painting and all that? I just don't know where those people and all that would have come from. So, I talked with some of the other big donors and the supporters of the SDP45 project, and told them, it's like, look, there's just no way we're going to be able to do this. And so we all decided basically that, hey, it was worth a shot. Had it happened when we wanted it to happen, I think we could have made it happen. But waiting this long, it just wasn't going to happen, and it would jeopardize everything else that we're doing to try to, do that too. We're not supermen here, and especially now with the rampant inflation and the high fuel costs and all that, the world is a lot worse off than it was in 2019. We had a good year in 2019. The economy was doing just fine in 2019. Then COVID hit, and then all the stupidity in Washington hit a year ago. And now we're looking at, sky high prices on everything, and the prices for this stuff keep going up and up and up. And so now is a time to kind of be thankful for as far as we got here, and to start running trains, and to see how many people are going to come this summer to ride the trains, and then move forward from there with that as our income stream, and then basically try to pull in some of ourselves and get away from some of these projects that that might have been feasible a few years ago, but right now we just have to go into hunker down mode and basically keep ourselves afloat here. Um, so there's other projects that was working on that we're no longer working on. One of which is there was a Lake Erie, Franklin, and Clarion wooden bobber caboose body that was over in Clarion that we were going to bring here and work on, and we're not going to do that either. As a matter of fact, it's found another home already, so we got out from under that one. And there's an Alco switcher on the other side of Youngstown that we got off the steel mill. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be it's another one of those $15,000-$20,000 things just to move it across town. I just don't have the money to do that. So we just have to conserve right now. We've got our locomotives, we got our property. We're going to continue trying to acquire additional property and put additional track in. We already have some money for some more property we're trying to get, and just get 58 and get out there and run trains, and slowly work on 57 and get it running in a few years. But that's just the way things are right now. So, and one other thing is, of course, before the Ukraine situation and the sky high inflation took place, I told the Youngstown Southeastern Railroad that I was actually going to quit there April 1st, to come here so I can be here on a narrow gauge every day, because I want to give this railroad the best shot it can. I want to run trains here as much as we can, haul as many passengers as we can, and turn this into a functioning business that pays its own way and can become a good tourist attraction for Northeast Ohio. And you just can't do that having a job somewhere else. This place is a full-time job in itself. So I'm kind of in a position where I can do that. It's it's a little bit more hairy now that the prices have increased so much, and of course that also brings with it the uncertainty of, well, are we going to get any visitors this year? Is anyone else going to be able to afford to drive here or pay for the tickets to get in? So we're going to keep our prices low and all that, and hopefully that people around the Youngstown area, won't go to out of town to go on, places to go on weekends. Maybe they'll just come here. I hope so. I hope this all works out. So it's a little bit of a gamble there, but I hope this all works out. So that brings us to, what to do with the money that we raised for the SD45. So it's still there. It's in the bank account. But what I'd like to do is put it up to all of you who are watching this, who donated to the effort. If you would like me to refund the money that you donated, just get in touch with me, send me an email, and let me know what it was that you contributed, and then I will send you a check for whatever that is. Or if you would like, we could just put that into our efforts here for the narrow gauge, and use it for continuing work on 58 and narrow gauge railroad. So this is all up to you. It's your money. You decide what you want to happen with it, and I will respect your wishes. As for what's going to happen to the SD itself, I don't know. VMT still owns it. Hopefully they'll find someone else interested in it. Basically, its status has not really changed. It's still, they're in limbo. So maybe some other group will come along and want it. I've talked with a few others that were interested, and they decided against doing anything with it. I think some of the others are also finding out the same thing we are. So these things are it's expensive. It's expensive to move. It's not getting any cheaper. And it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of parts if you're going to make it operational. And if you're not going to make it operational, well, then that's the not as much of an appeal to want to have it. So I don't know what's going to happen with it, but all I know is that we're just not in a position. It was a good idea at the time. I was trying to do something to help preserve local history. Um, I think it would have worked out had the timing been better, but unfortunately, it was out of my hands. And I had to keep moving forward on this because I think this narrow gauge railroad is really going to turn into something good. And, so tried. But, you win some, you lose some. At least we gave it a try, and we just didn't sit there and say, "Gee, I wish somebody would preserve that." Well, we actually gave it a shot, and you find out that sometimes it's a lot harder than you think. So, yeah, if you want to send me an email or a comment or whatever, let me know what you think about this. I'm very sorry about this. This is not the way I wanted this to go. And this is also why it took me so long to make this video. For a long time, I just couldn't even think about it. It just upset me that much. So, all right, everyone. I will talk with you all later on. Thanks a lot. Thank you for supporting us.